I operate at the junction of business and culture. Our business helps museums solve problems. You might not know this, but there's a slow revolution going on in museums in the way they're thinking about modern audiences. They have an obligation to invite those modern audiences in, but they can't just turn to theme parks. They have to maintain the integrity of what they're doing. There's a woman called Nina Simon. She's the author of a book called The Participatory Museum, and she's a leading thinker in the area of modern museum visitors. In fact, she no longer calls them visitors. She calls them participants. And she encourages museums to invite these participants in and to celebrate diversity and difference in their museums, to say, we're here for you too. At the Gibson Group, we've been thinking about these different audiences for a while now and how to invite them into museums. We've been experimenting with our friends at Te Papa, the National Museum of New Zealand, and this is some of the work that we've been doing there. Some of the aspects of these new modern museum visitors include that they are not homogenous. They don't believe in the one true story. They happily celebrate and accept that there's many different points of view on any particular subject. They believe that they have a valid point of view and they want you to believe it too. They want to share with you their opinions. They want to leave their mark. As museum participants, they believe that they fit into the story somewhere. They're not going to just absorb a story told them by a curator. And when they want to go deeper and find out more about something that interests them, they want to be able to do it easily and quickly the way they do on the net. Another issue that's facing museums at the moment is how to provide access to the vast collections that they all have out the back. There's a long-standing tension between collecting, which some people call hoarding, and display. Now, of course, displaying an item exposes it to air and light and water and can lead to deterioration. But it's very hard to excite people and teach them something about an item that can't be displayed. But collecting, or hoarding, and display are both expressions of any museum's obligations to the public. It's just that hoarding is an obligation to a future public, whereas display is an obligation to a present public. So what do we do about this? Well, at the Gibson Group, we've recently found a solution to both of these challenges, and we've delivered it to the Copenhagen Museum. We call it Vegan, which is Danish for wall. We also call it Touch City, or Touch History. It's a giant touchscreen, immersive, interactive, and public. It's in the side of a 40-foot shipping container. We've lifted the side of the shipping container up to create an awning to protect from wind and rain and weather. And we've put 4 massive touchscreens in it. Each of those touchscreens you can see there is 2.5 meters across. So that's 10 meters of touchscreen. For those of you who can see this large red dot, it's 3 times the size of this dot in length. It's more than half the width of this stage. It's in public places in Copenhagen, in city squares. It's public and it's communal. It's multi-user, multi-touch for each screen, and we can put it on the back of a truck, so we describe it as semi-mobile. We've moved it twice in Copenhagen already, and all it does is plug in and push go, pretty much. It's a beautiful thing, and it's taking the museum world by storm, and we're rather proud of it. We've had to invent all of it, including the touchscreen, the design, and the software behind it, and then we had to build it. I'm going to show you part of it. What I have here is a very small version of the touchscreen. So you have to use your imagination to imagine that I have 4 giant touchscreens in front of me, which have to be touched like this. 4 of those in a row. What I've got here is a very small representation of it. So when I touch this here, you're going to see it projected on the screen here. And what it does is it allows us to explore both Copenhagen and the collection of the Copenhagen Museum by touch. So let's do it. As we stroke across the screen horizontally, we go around through the Copenhagen cityscape, which is 2D for 3D design. We can click on things that interest us just by touch. Let's have a look at this video. So, depending on how good your Danish is, you'll be able to tell something about this video and the tags, the timing, and who uploaded it. If we get out of there, I'll show you some other things. We scroll back through the cityscape. Now, this is not a perfect representation of the city. It's more like a mind map. If you were a Copenhagen person or knew Copenhagen well, you'd be able to recognise this particular area of town and know that these buildings were in this sort of area, and this was a good representation of it. If we go back, we can then, if we touch through, we're going through the layers of the city, closer and further away from an imaginary centre where we started. We can do lots of great things with this screen. Let's send a postcard to my mum. I've got a camera here. You're all on screen, so say smile. So you can see that I'm now in the photograph, and I can move the picture around so that I'm next to a building I happen to like. If I want to send now, I then enter in my mum's email address and send it off to her. Let's open up a media station. The media stations are collections of media that are either deposited within the museum or have been uploaded by users. This is a media cloud, and this cloud shows a whole lot of media that is connected to this particular area and is linked by theme and also by time. We can scroll through by touch and find something that appeals to us. You can see there's lots of different time zones and sorts of stories represented in this. Let's choose this lovely lady here. So you can see with this album, there are lots of pictures. There's information about her, where she was uploaded from, the year the image was created, some tags that have been tagged to her. My Danish isn't quite up to those tags. And if you can flick through the albums and find out more about this area. And you can see these albums are ordered pretty much by date as the photographs get more modern as we flick through. We can do lots of things with this album. We can send this picture. If you particularly like this picture, you can send it home or to anybody else by clicking that, and you'll be able to insert email addresses. We can indicate that we think it's cool, and that'll come up on screen. If we think this is offensive in some way, we could tap that, and it would be reported to the cell phone in my friend's pocket over there, so we won't do that one. We can upload. So if I've got a picture on my phone or in my camera or at home online, I can upload it to this album. I can put tags, I can provide a whole lot of information, and it will be collected into this database and into this album. And you'll see that people have left comments. There's video comments here. If I scroll through those, a couple of video comments and some written comments as well. We could do that. There's a video comment, or we can go through and we'll find a keyboard. And we can type something in there. Let's type TEDx and then send to the wall. We come out of there. I'll show you the time slider. We have a time slider that brings images in and out depending on their relative time related to other things. You can see things moving in and out of the cityscape. And when we don't want to be there anymore, we can either scroll through and forward and go somewhere else, or we can go to the map and jump somewhere. Let's go to Christianshavn, where all the druggies live. Let's get on the bus. So that's what you can do with it physically. There are a few other things, but what does it mean? Well, of course, it addresses some of the issues that I was telling you about before. It's in a public place, so it breaks down some of the barriers to going to a museum. It's fun for modern audiences, but it still maintains the integrity of a museum. It's enjoyed socially, communally, in a collaborative way on the street. People enjoy it lovingly and raucously and lovingly and excitedly. And they stand there and they share their history together. And they exchange stories right there in front of this thing. It's easily discoverable with easily discoverable mechanisms that reward discovery. There's no need for instruction panels. It allows you to comment and interpret the information from your own point of view. And it breaks down the one true story. There's lots of diversity, lots of different opinions on the one subject or area. And people really get to engage with it completely. It, of course, provides lots of access to a vast database of material, and every time you go back, because there's so much material, you get a different experience. We've had about 1,600 people visit it on average a day, and around 330,000 email addresses have received information about it. So it's something we're very proud of. And the most exciting thing is that people love it, but it's still a museum. It still has the integrity of a museum. People really do love it. We have a demo rig in our office, and I invite people to come and have a look at our exhibition, and they politely accept my invitation. And then they get to the office, and they rush at the screen, and they stroke, and they explore, and they enthuse, even when they don't understand the Danish. So we get these shared moments of joyful excitement, even in the office in Torrey Street. So what do we do now? Well, we've solved problems of museums, so we're now looking for other people to work with, and we're working with a few people. It's going to be great. The best thing it's for is to allow people to explore visual material in an excited way, in a way that rewards them for exploration and helps them make sense of a vast amount of visual material with a lot of data. So we've been talking to people in New York to build something for a wall there. This is a visualization for a possible New York wall. We could do a history of almost anything with lots of data and lots of visual material. A history of rugby, maybe of New Zealand, perhaps of the Olympics or some other commercial or even non-commercial product with a long history, a rich history. We could allow people to explore their personal history related to perhaps World War I, for example. We've been talking to people in El Paso, in Texas. This is a visualization that would work for them. We've been currently working with some people in Australia to bring a wall version over there. And we've also been working in Cairo to bring a wall to Cairo to celebrate Egyptian democracy and culture. This is a visualization for them. This is a visualization for them. So we're looking forward to working with anybody who's got a large collection of visual material and helping the world celebrate, engage with, and get excited about that visual content, one visitor or participant at a time. And there are the pyramids. Aren't they gorgeous? Thanks very much.